To begin, we need to remove the upper cabinet. In order to do this, we also need to remove the door. You're going to be using a T15 L wrench. I'm going to be using a slightly better wrench for this, but you first need to remove the magnet side and the hinge side. And there are 4 screws, one here, 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 and here. And with a little moving magic, voila, door moved. Okay, now next thing you need to do is remove the rear panel, and that's done by removing the screw here and here on both sides. You then want to remove the wraparound housing. This is only held on by the 6 screws on the front of the machine, also using the T15 Torx wrench. Okay, to remove the housing, you simply want to spread the rear and drop it straight down and out. Alright, now the gear that we'll be replacing is this gear here, and you want to use a T25 and to remove this center screw. You'll need to hold the inside drivetrain while you untorque this. Now there may be a spacer. Make sure you don't lose that. That is to make sure this gear doesn't bind. Okay, once the washer is removed, you can easily just remove this gear and set it aside. We then need to remove this coupling using the hex wrench provided. These set screws do have a little bit of Loctite on them, so you want to use the short end and get a firm grip so you don't strip them. Okay. All right, remove the coupling. There's 2 washers here that are fairly loose. You want to leave those there. That's to space the gear out to the proper setting. Then take the new gear, slide it on, and using the hex wrench provided, you want to tighten these set screws onto the flats. There's 2 flats at 90 degrees angles to each other. We'll next need to break the chain. You need to find the linkage. Looks like this. Using a pair of needle nose, pop the clip. Next we'll need to reinstall the chain. To reinstall the chain, you want to put the link that you just removed as close to this area here so you can gain access to the holes. And making sure that the chain engages the motor sprocket below. And put the linkage in for the back side. Then the plate. And then replace the clip. Though it's not really necessary, go ahead and put the washer back on, just so you have the parts. Okay, you now have a fixed gear to allow that will allow the motor to run the gear train in reverse. Okay, because we have a fixed gear, the arm will swing wildly, so we need to remove the arm so that it will only be a temporary arm. In order to do this, with the hex wrench provided, remove this screw and washer, and also won't move it. And also remove this clamp and washers, and remove the arm. We're actually going to replace the arm with another one. You also want to remove this spring. Okay, once you've loosened the set screws about 2 turns, slide the coupling forward. Then taking the washers that we provided, there's about 15 of them, go ahead and size up how many washers are required to fit but not bind. That's perfect. That's about 13. Then set those aside, and then you want to go ahead and remove the coupling the rest of the way. Alright. Go ahead and install the washers, and then put the coupling back in place. Now you're going to need to hold, this might take 2 people, you're going to need to hold the shaft on the other side to make sure it doesn't move backwards. Okay. We then want to reinstall the housing. Okay, we'll then need to install this collar. Simply slide it onto the coupling and back it off just a bit so that it doesn't touch the housing when it spins. That should be fine. Okay, the machine is basically complete as it is. Now, since the handle becomes temporary, we're going to provide a handle similar to this. It won't have the crank lock assembly on it, and it will have a clutch bearing similar to this, but the metal in the back will be removed, which will allow you to put the handle on in both directions. So for basic standard forward motion, you simply slide it on and turn it normally. If you have to do it in reverse, you would simply pull the knob on top, turn it a quarter turn, turn the handle around, and use it in a ratchet motion. One note, this gold knob here, anytime you're running on the robot in automatic mode of any sort, this knob needs to be up. The only time it will be down is when you put the crank on the right side and going forward. Now, in the future, something you might want to think about, we can actually have this shaft coming out on both sides. So this side would be for forward, and this side would be for reverse, and you would only have one handle, and you wouldn't need to do the ratchet motion. And once again, the only time you would have this knob down would be when you're going forward on this side. Also, one other thing, since you probably are using a robot, you're probably removing the door. We're also going to supply these strips if you want them. The thicker one goes on one side and the thinner on the other. Those are just more decorative, but feel free to use them. Okay, the last step would be to replace the logic chip, which you've done before, so I won't bother to explain it too detailed. Simply remove this panel with the 4 screws, lay it flat, replace the chip, and then put it back in place again. And once you have that, the machine will be complete. With the chip, you'll get a more detailed instructions on what the machine will be capable of now that the new reverse gear is installed and the new logic chip.